mind you, this person in particular, they're not the ones that made the post, but their spouse did, and they
reposted or
not
shared
not tagged, collab. So that way it went on this person's page,
right?
At the same time. Which, and if you guys didn't know, you have to accept that, so it doesn't just magically pop up on its own. Like that person has to physically look at it, hit accept, and then it goes on to their feed. So anyway, an individual that some of you guys may or may not know of, Doja Cat, has never been known for anything godly at all. And so I'll read the caption real fast. So I'm so happy that I was able to witness this moment. She is super humble, warm, and such a talented artist. Her people gave her flowers, and but she gave that love right back to them. They absolutely bodied the Coachella. I can't wait for another Doja Cat show and see what else they come up with. So that's the video, and then there's just another slide where they're taking this group picture, posing, whatever. And so obviously, clearly the first video for not even just the name itself, but for the first video. Let me get this off the screen. Clearly the first video already very clear that this is not a Christian event of any sort or whatever. And then obviously with the context you get. And so reading through the comments, sorry, I had to unfollow you after this. You're going to lose a lot of peoples. I'm sorry for you, but no thanks. We can't mix. So automatically it's the don't be conformed to this world, that kind of deal, where people are, hey, we are holy. We're supposed to be set apart. So there's those arguments that people will start trying to use those arrows of specific Bible verses and brush, a broad stroke any situation. Now, this I feel like is a little bit clearer in the sense of like, yeah, but the artist is known for debauchery, has, and you could tell she's, she could be a very lovely lady, but you can tell that there are a lot of things that she's going through in her head, and some ups and downs. And I don't follow her personally by any means, but this is just kind of seeing some other clips and everything else or whatever, right? So, and everybody's an image bearer, right? Everybody's an image bearer. So it's like, hey, first and foremost, I love you as an image bearer.
Yeah.
Right. I love you as an image bearer. The hot take or the thing that I had set up was, a Christian using their platform to platform. I'm not even talking about like a music artist who's featuring somebody like a D1. D1 does this too. Everybody always uses Lecrae, but D1 does the same thing too, except D1 has, and I'm sure others do, but D1 has very strict things where it's like, hey, like, don't be cussing on my tracks. I don't do that on mine or whatever. Don't wild out. There's a story, I forgot who it was specifically, but he had a relationship with them. He purposely did his verse with a specific line, testing to see if D1 would say something about it.
Yeah, I remember this.
And D1 actually did. And so he's like, hey, I just wanted to see if you were about it, whatever. It's all good. I'm gonna change it. So I'm not talking about necessarily features. I'm talking about more of this in context where a Christian who is well known, who has a platform, is a part of an event. Like you could have gone to this event and not posted about it, and you could have had some great godly conversations or whatever. I'd be good on it, right? For me, I'm like, hey, if you just posted, hey, enjoy my time, at Coachella. I'm not one of those people where it's like, oh, you shouldn't have been there, and God does want you there, whatever. I'm not that camp. But when you go ahead and post about it, and then you show it, and the only thing you show, the first thing you show, her, her doing a little pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, man, this is a great.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Topic.
Should a Christian ever post anyone or anything on using their platform that is very clearly not for God?
I first got to go to your walk in general, though, too. Because, again, we go back 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have platforms like this.
Right.
We didn't have it. It might have ended up in Time Magazine or, something like that if you were that big of a name to highlight or whatever. But we weren't putting people on these pedestals, I guess, or on this level of expectation that you have to be a certain kind of way. So not that I'm saying you couldn't be there, but why were you there? Like, what was your why for being there?
Right.
Because again, I'm not here to judge anybody, but if that doesn't represent my morals and my values, then what was my purpose for being there?
Mm-hmm.
And I've changed my opinion on this a lot of be careful little eyes what you see, be careful little ears what you hear. Like, what you open a door to really does creep in.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, you know, I used to never have a problem with Taylor Swift, but now I'm like, I'm really starting to read into some of these things that she does within her set, and some of these songs. I mean, she's got like 6 songs that are explicit on her next album, and you know, on this current, like, these things are becoming apparent. And I'm like, now that I'm starting to think about it, having a kid, I'm like, it changes your lens.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that didn't affect me, but what am I gonna let? Do I want my kid to think that I'm okay with this?
Yeah.
And if I have it in my life, then it kind of gives that precedent that it's okay. And so I would go back to that first, and I would want to know what my why is for being there.
Yeah.
Is that a personal friend? Is that somebody that I can truly say I have a connection with? Because I'll be honest, I've been to a wedding where what happened at the wedding was not my lifestyle, my morals, my whatever, but I was there, you know, because that was a close personal friend.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change how they're going to live their lives, but I can respect and hold true to my values still.
Yeah.
So people know I don't drink. That's something that's important to me. And anybody who's going to push me in a way to keep pushing me and say, man, but it's not sin. I agree with you. It's not sin to drink, but I come from an addictive family. I don't really want that in my life. Yeah. I don't want to go to that place of appearance of evil. No, I may not be. It's not my job to keep you from stumbling, but if I also don't need it in my life, why do I need to put you in that position too? You know, so
yeah,
it's one of those things where, like, in this situation, when we go to platform now, okay, it may not affect me. I might be strong.
Yeah.
And being able to look at that video and think nothing terrible.
Yeah.
But maybe somebody followed my page, followed my platform because of what I was putting out there, was helping them through, I'm going to call it what I call it. Seeing that because someone who struggled with pornography or lusting, that could set them back.
Yeah.
That could, and it's not necessarily your responsibility, but when you're got a platform where you've pushed out content to encourage people, especially with the word, and then you post something like that, it is I appreciate the person said, hey, I gotta unfollow you for this.
Yeah. Because
for them, they're saying, I can't have this on my timeline. Not to mention, if I'm a married man, I want to respect and honor my wife. You think my wife would want to peek over at my phone and see a video pop up on my phone where somebody's doing that? No, I don't even want to open a door to that.
Yeah.
And so, just for personal conviction alone, like, for yourself, you should think, like, okay, what is this opening a door to in my own life? But then when I have a platform that people might be following because I'm consistently posting messages, scriptures, things like that, and then this person's like, man, I can trust you. There's an opposite end of this too. I can trust you. I can count on you. Yep. Like, I want to follow you because you're helping me through what I'm going through. Yeah. Yeah. There's that issue. On the flip side, no one's perfect. Right. We're human. I have definitely had my fair share of mess ups and failures in front of people on social media, so on and so forth. So by no means is there not grace and mercy in this situation. But to answer your question, I would say that if you're aware, like you're consciously aware that this could, I always go back to, if I think it's going to cause a problem, why would I post it in the first place? If I know that for the sake of being, if I have to post this just to say, for the sake of being edgy, I'm going to post this. For the sake of pushing buttons, I'm going to post it. You miss the entire purpose of what the gospel is. The gospel was not meant to be edgy. The gospel was not meant to push buttons with people and to take people out. The gospel's there because it's the living and active and true word of God.
Yeah.
This is what he's called us to. This is the standard he's called us to. He's called us to it knowing that we'll never be able to live it 100% accurately ever,
Yeah.
which is why grace and mercy is there in the first place.
Yeah.
But we still are called to it.
Right.
And so when you're actively pursuing edgy and pushing buttons and trying to stir the pot, now you've missed it of what Jesus's whole mission was
Yeah.
in the first place. And that was to preach truth in love,
Yeah.
not truth in edginess, not truth in trying to prove that I'm holy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, I understand. Nisha, actually, I'll go ahead and put it back on the screen. Going out of your way to tell someone you are unfollowing them, who you aren't doing life. Oh, is so cringe. So yeah, going out of the way just to tell somebody who you have no affiliation with, just to say, hey, I'm not following you anymore. It is cringe.
I agree.
I agree with that.
They could have just made the decision. That was my point.
The unfollow button is for free.
Your decision to do that is great because
Yeah.
you're saying I can't have this in my life. Good for you. I do agree though. The need to vocalize anything.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ever.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't need to tell the waitress that I'm leaving for the night. You know what I mean? Like you did your part. I paid. Like I'm just gonna go now. You know what I mean? Like we don't need to announce.
Yeah.
Everything.
No, I get that. So my quick thoughts, and I'm over here trying to flip through scripture or whatever, right? So I know there are several scriptures that people would try to use to talk about how we're supposed to be the salt and life of the world, and so we how can salt add flavor to something if it's not present, right? If you take the salt out, there's no salt there, there's no seasoning there. So now you eating some dry chicken with no seasoning, right? Essentially.
That's normal for me.
So, anyways, so that's where somebody would say, hey, like this is why I should be here or whatever. So again, the hot take, the what we're talking about is the need to post about it.
Yeah.
Because like you said, like, hey, why are you there? What's your heart or whatever? I don't personally need to know
right
why you're there. In fact, I don't really care. Like it's not for me to care because I don't really know you. My care would be, let me pray for you. Let me pray that whatever you were there for, was sought out. You did what you needed to do, and impact was made. Yeah. Let me make that prayer. And again, let me give you some grace. Let me not just assume you were doing everything that everybody else was doing, right? Which is what they did to Jesus. You sitting with all these sinners and these tax collectors, and I can't believe you're going to let your teacher go talk to, this person, this Samaritan woman. Like everything and anything about him. Now, he didn't hang out with the sinners hung out with him. Yeah. That's a whole thing too, right? But to stay on the topic of posting, right? So some people would look at something like let's see, I knew I was gonna lose my place here. You know what? And this is actually why I purposely left my place here. So Exodus 19 5-6. So this is the Lord revealing Himself at Sinai. So right here it says, Now if you will obey me and keep my covenant, you will be my own special treasure from among all the peoples on earth. For all the earth belongs to me. Verse 6, and you will be my kingdom of priests, my holy nation. This is the message you must give to the people of Israel, right? So God's talking to Moses and like, yo, this is, I want y'all set apart. Again, there's many verses talking about setting you apart and this, that, and the other. And somebody would go, this is why we should never be with these unbelievers. This is why we should never be at a Coachella. This is why you should never be, here, this, that, and the other. And that is then where I would flip to in terms of where passages where it's talking about like, hey, the weaker brother, because you kind of touched on that a little bit. Somebody can see this post and the weaker brother would be like, hey, like I was doing good, I hadn't been looking at porn forever, whatever. now I stumbled on this, and all I can think about is this, right? So it's the weaker brother conversation. So that comes from, well, I'm sure it comes from different places, but the spot that popped in my mind was Romans 14, 20, 21. It's better to not and actually it says this even earlier in Romans as well. So but it's better to not eat meat or drink wine or do anything else if it might cause another believer to stumble. You may believe there's nothing wrong with what you are doing. Oh, it's not earlier. I was listening to Streetlights Bible app when I was doing the lawn or whatever, so I just didn't realize I had listened all the way through. So I just listened to this just yesterday. So you may believe there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but keep it between yourself and God. Blessed are those who don't feel guilty for doing something that they've decided is right. But if you have doubts about whether or not you should eat something or post something, you are sinning if you go ahead and do it. For you are not following your convictions. If you do anything you believe is not right, you are sinning. And so that is where the conversation would be for me, which is, hey, I don't mind you're there. You have all liberties to do this, that, and the other. Is it wisdom? I don't think, and this is what people mostly do, I don't think that's a salvation issue. I don't think I should be questioning this person's salvation. I don't think I should not just toss the baby out with the bathwater where it's like, oh my gosh, like now I can't, there's nothing ever been good on your social media, or the fear of like, oh, is this what you're going to do from here on out? Well, no, how about I just keep, and that's fine. Again, it's fine if you had done follow, but how about I just keep following and I just keep praying and believing, hey, Lord, I don't know what you're doing with them. I don't know what convictions you put on their heart, what assignments you've given them. Keep them as they do whatever it is they do. That would be my prayer, right? Again, it goes back to what we've been talking about constantly. What is your trend now, right? Because that's kind of what you hit on. Hey, if I followed you because you gave me these great inspirational quotes and Bible verses and references, and you've been doing that for however long, right? And now every post is about you being in these certain spaces that, rather it's a weaker brother thing or whatever, I feel convicted about, right? It is not wrong for me to want to unfollow you. And at the same time, I can understand why that person is hurt, because social media gives you this false connection of like, oh, that was my dude. That was my girl, man. Like everything she posted was everything I needed about whatever. And it's just like, you put a little bit too much on somebody that you don't actually know.
Right.
Right. So where I'm going with all of this is, do whatever it is you want to do. Right. I'm with Romans 14 right there. Like, hey, if you feel good with it, you got convictions, set right, and you got community, you got boundaries, right? You got all that stuff. You got somebody on your pulse, right? Your spiritual pulse. Keep posting. Do what you got to do. All right, go. I'm sorry, not keep posting. Keep doing whatever it is you got to do. Is it wise? I think it's a wisdom issue. Right. It's a wisdom issue. I mean, there's another CHH artist, and it's many of them, but one of them I actually covered here on YouTube. So it's in one of our YouTube clips where they posted something, and I'm like, I don't think that was wise for you to do it. Like you didn't add any commentary to it. There was literally no point to it other than you just wanted to show it, right? And it had nothing to do with anything that would glorify God, right? So for me, things like that, I can go, I can understand why you want to unfollow that person.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like, I'm a person of like, well, let's just see. I'm just going to sit here and see a little bit longer.
Well, so a couple of thoughts. Number one, a helpful little tool on social media. You can hide a post too.
Yes.
So if there's just one post that maybe, even though you may not agree with it, if it's affecting you, you can hide it for you, right? Like I always tell people, the stumbling block conversation, it's not my job as a believer to always look out to make sure everyone else is not stumbling over me. You still have a responsibility as a believer yourself to divide in your life what is right and wrong for you.
Yeah.
All right. So at the same time, if I'm consciously making a decision that I know could affect others, that's where I get that stumbling block conversation. And I've been in situations where by no means that I know that was an issue for somebody, and I might have did, or whatever, it wasn't intentional. It caused them to stumble. That can't be on me. I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I apologize. Like I didn't want to put you in that situation. There's been other times where I know someone might struggle here, or someone might have this issue, and I don't, and I do this, and now I'm opening a door knowing that they struggle. We're talking different situations there. Right. Final couple thoughts on it. Number one, we can say that Jesus hung out with sinners, and that's great, but how much more time did he hang out with the disciples? And even on top of that, how much more time did he spend just him and the Father? So there is a time and a place to spend with those who are not like-minded. I'm not even going to say sinners, because we still all struggle with sin. Yeah. So when the Bible talks a lot more about the kind of friends that you should have, iron sharpening iron. Like, you can't tell me that we're going into certain situations and expecting it to be the same standards. You know what I mean? So
yes, sir.
In this scenario, I'm like, again, it brings me to my last thought is, I think something has to be said about comfortability too. What am I allowing to be comfortable though in my life? And this is why, like, for me and my wife, we had to decide that alcohol was a no-go for us. We by no means have told anybody that alcohol is a sin, that you can't drink, because that's not true. But for us, we had a conviction about it. We're saying it's not for us. We don't want to do it. And that was our choice, and we were uncomfortable with it. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about matters that have an open-ended. If God told you not to do it and you do it, that's sin.
Right. Amen.
All right. So, but anything that you have to make an argument for to keep it in your life, I would challenge you to question, am I addicted to that thing? Am I struggling with that thing?
Do I idolize it?
Do I desire to, even just the desire to post something that I know is going to ruffle feathers? That alone should be like the fact that you have to wrestle with, I'm going to post this on purpose because I know that it's going to tick people off. Well, that's not fruit. Like the Bible says, you'll know them by their fruit. So if I'm posting something with the intention of getting a rise out of somebody, there's a problem there too. Yeah. With this, I don't think that was the intention. I think there was appreciation in this post. I think there's a genuine probably relationship there that we're not aware of. Yeah. But comfortability for me, how comfortable am I to allow sin still? Yep. Apparent sin. Right. Be comfortable in my life for people to see it. Yep. And that again, when we're talking platform, that's something that you have to guard. The Bible talks about guarding your heart. You also have a responsibility when you're in leadership to guard those that you're leading, whether you intended to lead them or not. Unfortunately, social media has this. If you're gonna be in this kind of role, you are automatically a leader. You are automatically thrown into this leadership role, whether you like it or not. People are following you, and we literally use the term follow. Yeah. They're following you because they're following the content that you're making, what you're putting out, who you are as a person. So you are now, by biblical standards, held to a higher standard. The Bible talks about that. When you're in leadership, you're held to a higher standard. Whether that's what you were asking for or not, at this point, you have put yourself in that position to continue producing this certain kind of content and putting yourself out there. So you have this, and I would even argue as a Christian, you have a responsibility. You are already held to a standard.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
But once you put yourself into a place where I am leading, and because I have too much context, because I know the name and I know a lot about that person. Yeah, they are in leadership. Yep. So it does role. Sit right now in my head. I agree with the current thing we're talking about. Yeah. But if you have this platform, you have a response, especially when we're talking Christian. Yeah. All right. just producing content, anyone can produce content.
Yeah.
And you can decide what morals you want to stand on and whatever as a human.
Yeah.
But when we're putting the biblical context to something, we're saying this is Christian, God-centered content that I want to put out and portray out there for people. What you allow to be comfortable and people to see is going to affect how people view your content moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it's a known thing, the John Crist stuff. A lot of people loved John Crist until they found out he had failed.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk Gavi because that's come out,
Mm-hmm.
that's known stuff. A lot of people loved Gavi until you found out that he failed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay, well, everything that they do from here on out, even though they might have had grace, mercy, all this stuff extended to them, it's going to affect the lens that I look at their content in.
There's some distortion. I agree.
So even now, even though maybe you aren't the one that failed, but what you allowed to be comfortable on your page and on your platform is now going to affect some people who are going to now view your content.
Yep.
And so, again, I commend those who are saying, I personally have to choose to unfollow you because this doesn't mix with the life and the morals and the standard and the things I'm going to live. At the same time, I'm going to be real with you, dog. He don't care. That person don't care if you're not following or not. Go do you. He or she would probably encourage you to go. If that's what you feel you need to do, then by all means, go.
If you got to cut it off, cut it off. Yeah,
cut it off. But there's something to be said about just making let your yes be your yes and your no be your no, and not needing to feel like you got to explain that for Again, respectfully, nobody knows who you are.
Right.
So you saying I'm going to unfollow them isn't about to lead this mass exodus of people behind you saying, yeah, I'm going to do the same. Like, people are going to make their decisions. They're going to stand on their morals. They're going to stand on what they believe. There are probably just as many people who saw no problem with it on that platform as well.
Right.
So respectfully, I wouldn't have posted it.
Yep.
We've been to weddings where we've DJ'd them and we were doing a service where that maybe wasn't our goal necessarily, but that's what broke out. You wouldn't dare see us post it on our socials or whatever.
Never.
Respectfully, like praying for you, love you.
Yeah.
Do you, boo? There's always one. But I'm not, and out of respect for my wife too, I'm definitely not gonna even capture it. As content.
Right.
It's gonna be something I'm gonna say. You know what? That's not something I want my brand or who I am to reflect those things. And so I have to be mindful because I do have a platform. I do know that there's people watching me, maybe not to that high of an extent, but there is somebody watching me on my socials, and I'm very mindful of what I allow and don't allow someone to see because of that, because I want to make sure that I'm protecting the platform that God gave me. So, but it's an interesting conversation because
and Nisha makes a good point here. When people in their circles express concern and they still don't see it as a problem, that's the problem. And I would say I agree with that. If you've got somebody who is close in your circle and just says, hey, you know what? I think that was not the wisest thing to do. And then they start going, well, forget you then. That is when it becomes a problem. When you start turning everybody into yes men around you, I definitely agree that that's an issue.
And remembering that correction is meant to be private, though, first.
Yes.
We talk about in Matthew where it talks about if your brother offends you, you go to them in private.
Yeah.
And you speak. Social media is not the place to call out. Just because they posted it there doesn't mean that's where you also need to post it too.
Right.
Just because they said it in a group setting doesn't mean that you need to follow up in the group setting.
Yeah.
Wisdom is saying, even though they may not be following the standard that I believe God's called us to, that I feel is off, doesn't mean that it pulls me out of the standard that God's called me to, though.
Yeah.
So I got to be mindful and say, okay, if this instance right here, if I was in that person's circle and it bothered me to a point that I felt like I needed to share it, I'm not about to comment on their content and say, bro, sis, I can't believe that this is what you're posting right now. Like, you know better. Yeah. I'm going to call you. I'm going to find a way to spend time with you and show you that I still love, care, value you, in a way that's not like, hey, I'm just coming at you with judgment right now.
And just because Nisha said, your context of what you're talking about is that you have proximity to that person, right? So yes, this is not the time to
please don't message me
to DM your favorite artist or your speaker or preacher or whatever that you've never, other than gone and seen them one time or whatever, had any kind of relationship. So, hey, if you liked any of this content and you found some value in it, make sure that you like, subscribe, and of course, share it. Also, if you're interested in some more, go ahead and check out these videos. Till next time, grace and peace. Adios.